Greetings, tabletop addicts and adventurers in recovery. My name is Stubby,
And I am Gigas.
and we are talking crit. And today, we're going to be doing things slightly different than we usually do. Before, we were doing shot for shot, episode for episode, with Critical Role. As that has become quite the load to bear, we have decided to make things a little bit easier on our end for now. We are going to be doing a once-a-month recap episode for that month's episodes. So, that being said, this will be the episode for episode 11, 12, and 13. Now, let's get into Make Merry.
Make merry!
And in this episode, we start with the cold open of the Seeker's Table. Here we see kind of the travels for this group, going east towards the Royce's homeland. On this path, they come across a landfall that blocks the road going to Kavros. And at that roadblock, they see that there is Revolutionary Guard or Revolutionary Council banners, but also, and more specifically, they see House Taconis banners. And being that that is specifically the house that just murdered most of the Royce family and murdered Octus, they're probably going to have to take a different path. And that's what they do. They go through a detour through Adzar, a dwarven trading village. And this is where Taisha actually gets her first taste of really what others, the smaller folk, believe. Because really she deals with the Circle of Ancients. She deals with like the higher ups of dol-makjar. She's not dealing with the small people's belief, the kind of the
background.
Yeah. And we see this lady, this follower of Trosna, and the Shaper of the Dwarves, which is another one that we're finally getting. I think this is only our 5th Shaper that we're learning about so far. Maybe our 4th, actually. Nope, 5th. And that actually, that the Shaper of the Dwarves, their followers defaced the holy sites of the primordial Titans to make their own holy sites. And that primordial that was defaced here was Tahana, the Earth Titan. And it kind of shows, we get a kind of a layer of faiths and mirroring of faiths here in this cold open. But moving into our next part here with the schemers, which was an unexpected turn for me. I did not expect us to get a whole half of an episode of schemers, which was a very, very cool kind of treat. We got to kind of see the state of which dol-makjar sits right now, where the schemers meet at the Seven Stars Tavern to drink some coffee and some whiskey. Azune reports that 60%, roughly 60%, of a Revolutionary Guard has been dismissed. And most of them have been immediately picked up by a mercenary group tied to the Condescent Creed. Dune
So it's a takeover.
Yeah, a hostile takeover too. It's going to be the Einfasen taking over half of them, and then they can anger all these people that are being let go, but they'll take that anger and push it towards one of their allies, the Halavars, who will use them to transport their filament. But with that in mind, Azune proposes that they try and like displace those guards. Instead of those guards going to work for the Halavars, going to work for Einfossen, going for any other house, make them work for us. Let's pay them to get them not to go to the Halavars. And then when the time comes, maybe they'll pick up arms for us to fight back. But the big problem that they have is money. Thankfully, Belair has just come into a lot of money. He's been given a blank check to move all of the artifacts out of the Loy wing and move it over to, I forget who it was. Maybe it was the Cormorant. It was the Cormorant wing. Yeah, to move it over to the House Cormorant wing of the Arcanaud, and they could divert some of that money from going to that because it's a blank check. They don't know how much it's going to take, so why wouldn't 100,000 gold coins go missing? You know, I had to move a bunch of pariah blades, and
you can't easily move than otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And then they also talk about how easily would it be to make fake versions of these magical artifacts and then stow away the real ones for us to use later. And they believe they could probably
they already have. They already have
the
duplicates made.
Exactly. And then they start talking about the Pentevral, and then on how the slaughtering of House Royce went, and how it just all of the evidence disappeared overnight, and that typically can't happen unless it has great force behind it, being the Taconuses. And then they start talking about the possible connections within the Sundered Houses that they could have spies placed, and even just information passed to them from the Sundered Houses.
Because at this point, everyone of any importance or power or standing is being supplanted, and so it's becoming also predictable. So they're starting to be able to predict, well, this person's in danger, you're in danger, like it's only a matter of time.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's exactly. It's only a matter of time before everyone gets taken out. And, it's time to stand now. Almost what Thiazi was trying to say, but we'll get to that later. But here we get a party, like a after party coming in downstairs in the Seven Stars, where they see that some of these fancier dressed people are coming in. One of them being Oris Blade and Camilla Lush Thrice. Kind of recognizing these people. Hal makes his way down and using his kind of notability to kind of push himself into the situation. Trying to learn why these fancy people are here at this bar in the Rookery. Or this tavern in the Rookery, I should say. And what they find out, or what Hal finds out, is House Royce was hosting a farewell feast at the Palazzo Divinos, and that whenever they got there, no one was around. The Royce family had gone and left a note saying, "Help yourselves, a goodbye feast, courtesy of Royce on their way to Ferry." Just everything is very conveniently placed up to say, hey, they weren't murdered, they just went home.
Yeah, it's definitely a ruse.
Yeah, very much. And they also speak on seeing guards hushily taking people away. people that were saying that that they had missing relatives that were like hired for House Royce and House Davinos, and they never showed up. They haven't showed back at home, and it's been days. Um, so a lot of suspicious things are moving right now.
Mm-hmm.
But more we get into it, Oris panics and breaks his invisibility glyph, his sea invisibility glyph, which then triggers a memory for Azune, making him think, wait, Yazi never triggered his own glyph. Glyph was unbroken. We saw that it was a fake, but we also saw that it was undamaged and unused, meaning either Thiazi was stopped from using it, and that's why he actually died, or he chose not to use it and chose to die. Which that one does not seem like very likely unless he decided this was going to be the moment that my death is going to spark the next revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of it makes sense for him to die, like willingly die. So it all points to that whoever wanted Thiazi to die had multiple different plans going at once, or there was multiple different people doing different plans at the same time, and it just so happened that all of them worked. They got the fake rune put into his back pocket so he couldn't break it. He couldn't break it and get away. And then someone else probably paralyzed him from being able to break it, probably using like a hold person spell or something like that to keep him from moving. He could talk, but he can't move. So then he wouldn't be able to break it, so whenever his grounding was taken out from under him, he had no other choice but to go with it.
Yeah.
And it just so
Wasn't
happened
it also mentioned? It wasn't also mentioned by Azune is that wasn't he aware that despite all of that, Thiazi's hands were in such a way that all he had to do was just bend his waist, and then he'd be able to constrict himself and break it that way.
Right. Yeah, like
So
it didn't
like
take
wasn't
much.
a choice
It took,
that he didn't.
Yeah, it was either a choice that he didn't, or that he was like magically held in place that he couldn't do it. So then it just wasn't available to him. But
And then also on top of that, as Azune is talking to Murray, he says that his loyalty is going to be tested by Einfazen, and then he leaves her with a name, Varen Kadorn.
yes, just in case that he doesn't come back out of his next situation. But getting that peek into the what were you gonna say?
I said dun dun dun.
Oh, gotcha. But getting that peek into the Seeker's Table was nice. But the next of tying up the loose ends of the Soldier's Table was honestly what I was expecting. I'm surprised he started with the Seeker's Table and then went to the Soldiers. I figured he would have went from the Soldiers into the Seekers, and then we're really left wondering, are we going to end on the Seekers, or are we going to start next episode on the Seekers or the Schemers? Because that really would have kept it up in the air of like ending the episode on them. But getting to really tie up the loose ends and end it on a very nice note, especially going into the next arc, was kind of nice as well. That we're not sitting here like trying to focus on our next arc, but also sitting here constantly thinking about the Soldiers, you know. Very nice transition, I will say. Because the Soldiers remain in the depths of Castle Delani, with all of the petrified bodies around them at the end of the battle from the previous session. In last year's sessions, I should say. And yeah, it's a kind of a gruesome sight, kind of a sad, depressing scene of basically everything's lifeless. The basilisk is dead. The knights are dead, and then we have all these stone sentinels before them, which seem to be lifeless. I mean, if you're petrified, statues don't seem like they have life to them. So, but we are left with means to get things going forward. Cadigan harvests the valuable basilisk components, hopefully having the parts that they need to restore Talsidamir to his former self. Haor and Thimble go over these documents that they recovered that are in mixed Dwarvish and ancient Oberdai, which I think in that moment nobody reads either of those, so they're going to have to try and find someone that can translate it for them. But they do find a cryptic incantation. Warrior, reach your senses. Tell me true. Do the dead draw near? And when they say that, you see the sentinels, the statues, Talsidamir and Dog, and all of their eyes glow. And that's when where is it? Sid Haor realizes by using detect magic that Sid was petrified in the middle of him using divine sense, kind of giving the statue the ability to like act as like a sentinel for like the undead or undead fiends and something else, I believe. And that's actually also where Tear understands that they were hunting paladins, those that could like use divine sense to try and possibly bolster their defenses around the Halavar estates, or around Halavar like places that the Candescent Creed is heavily influencing. But it doesn't have
Taylor talks about how like there's a question of like, well, why would they be coming from me specifically? It's like I haven't even seen anyone for like years, hasn't really been a part of that. I was like, well, that's just because you're a paladin. Like,
right.
you have this divine sense,
And that's why they're coming after you. Yeah. So going forward from there, they run into by going out that they choose to take their statues out the back way, as the Taconis depart from the front. They end up running in back with Dame Morgaine and Fell Tower, to end up actually give them the statue of a hound that that was one of the hounds of the king, and they believe that they have their own way of getting him unpetrified. They end up splitting up the yep. They end up splitting up the statues. They get a new wagon as well because the wagon they're currently in is like in shambles. And I believe they start heading towards the druids of the Seven Tines and Timmins Rock. Because they also, like, I mean, they lack a lot of evidence to really bring anything to justice here. So really their best option is to try and do damage control and try and get Sid back to his former self, like I said. But that's where we kind of go into this moment of like self-reflection, inter-group reflection, I guess. because we have like a moment between Wick and Tyranny where Wick is like apologizing to Tyranny because he's kind of like, I guess, second hand treated her as a second class person for a little bit here, and Tyranny has kind of felt slighted, um, and they kind of reconcile their tiff. Um, but they all talk about how the creed may not be fully bad, but that there is a cancer within it, and that cancer needs to be removed, and whatever good is still left needs to be saved. Teor reflects on his brother, and the state that he sees him in this petrified state. Um,
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
like
2,000 pounds of stone, but looks lighter than he ever has.
right. Because though he is made of stone, he does look malnourished. Um, Cadigan speaks with Tyranny. This being one of my favorite moments of this episode, um, just because we get the returning of Olbid's knife to Tyranny, um, as he had sent the handle, the important part, back to Olbid as the keepsake, and replaced it with bones that he had found from the Hound's shrine, and made it look ornate and beautiful. Um, and then this is also when we get to see that this is a what would have been called a vestige of divergence. Um, and then we get the moment of Cadigan going up to level 4, as we see Wulfric's quiver manifest a new bolt. One that he states that he's never been able to get there. He constantly tries to get the bolt to manifest, but it always fizzles. Um, I'm curious. I don't remember whether he even reveals what that bolt is, but either way, I'm excited to see what he does with it. Um,
I'm really, I'm happy with how each the characters is you choosing to use their level up in these kind of sometimes very like symbolic or poetic moments, not just like this is really going to help me win this battle, but like, oh no, this is something that actually matters. And Cadigan had this whole dad or maybe older brother, mother, this elder moment with Tyranny, because she's like, what,
I
6 months old in this world.
Right. Like, I mean, she may be. I mean, she is a. She's not. Demons aren't the same as us, so she's been around as long as time has been around. So, like, she's just been swirling in the pit, though. It's just been a culmination of these emotions, and she's only 6 months with having a physical body in the physical realm. Um, which that's one that I'm more excited to explore. Is I'm excited to explore more of like, I don't know if you'd call it the pantheon, because more of the pantheon is like the shapers and stuff, but I mean, demon lords are gods. They're the bad gods, but they're gods nonetheless. So they are technically a part of the pantheon. So I'm curious to see what the pit is, what Tyranny's dad is, I'm curious about all of it, and I want to see more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sadly, um we end that session on Candle Feast where it's he lights a candle for everyone. He gives Tyranny his glowing cane for the night. And as they sleep, Thimble watches them, remembering her early days with the Aussie, feeling jealous, not of what they have now, but what they still get to build between or between Tyranny and Wick. Um, and it was a nice little ending to that little arc, soldiers. Um, but now into episode 12, the Giant's Belt. We get the cold open of 18 years after the Shapers' War. Um, Hal Fang is with his infant daughter at the time, Hero. And this is during the time when, like, I mean, it's middle of the night, everyone is asleep, and he's just trying to calm down his baby daughter. The Aussie arrives out of nowhere in the dead of night, riding a House Royce horse. He's bearing news that Mara Weaver has been arrested by House Cormorant and the Golden Orchard. The Druidic Council has been disbanded. Loza Blade and Teor Pridesire call to arms. And there has been a ban on warlocks from the Underroad. And all of this is, I mean, this, I believe, to me, is the start of what we see now, obviously. Cormorant is making moves against House Royce, and it seems like the power struggle of the Sundered Houses has begun. We're starting to see the fracture in these houses, that Cormorant is kind of being hostile to House Royce, and that, like, there's not a elder, like, there's not a nature group, there's not the Judaic Council is no longer acting as the check and balances to this political nightmare. And then there's they're banning warlocks from traveling. So they're trying to regulate magic on a higher degree. And this is where Thiazi believes it's the moment and it's the time to resist, and it's time to start the rebellion. Thimble is already raising banners, and this is when he urges Hal to join him on the battlefield. That they fought before together side by side, and now is the time for the real battle to begin, to fight for the future of Hal's children, the future of dol-makjar as Ahriman as a whole. And
this is also where Hal is trying to get Thiazi to stay behind and not go forth with the rebellion, because he's already put in his time. And he also mentions their father. Even their father, hung up the cape and then raised, that he did his time and he knew it. But then Thiazi says, well, he's going to do what he wishes. But he also says that, his former wife, she's out there. She's actually, she's in the trenches. She's actually out there making a difference. And so I think that's also why, as we find out going further, that the disbanding of the Druidic Council really was a huge thing. And that's why we have such an importance on the old path.
Right. Very importance on the old path, and why later we'll see that there's not a huge connection between the circles. And I think that's where the Judaic Council would have helped a lot, is the communication between the circles, because there's a circle of stone, there's the circle of the ancients, and there's just not, it doesn't seem like there's a united force between the druids to keep forces tamed within Ahriman anymore. And another one that we'll see later with House Einfazen, later with whenever he has the conversation with Taisha. But yeah, we see a lot of interesting things here from that moment, from the start of the Falconers Rebellion. That Thiazi was the little brother that was like, I would be much, much more confident, a lot less scared if I had my big brother by my side in this fight. Um, but fast forwarding back to the present, our seekers are arriving into Risengirdle for the first time. Uh, Having Lady Aranessa of House Royce, Sir Julian of House Davinos, Bayless, Octus Taconis, and Taisha Loy in this group. Um, Coming into the city, Taisha does reveal herself as a druid of the old path and gives her true name. Being a big thing because in this time, they are very much the group that is getting hunted down the most. They have two royalty, technically, well, all of them are royalty in retrospect. We have a House Daconis, we have a House Royce, a House Davinos, and then Taisha Loy is of the Loy family in dol-makjar, and also a part of the Circle of the Ancients. And then Valus is one of the children, one of the sisters of Salandri. And that's honestly royalty within its own right because she is a daughter of a god. Um, all very, they're very much in trouble and need to keep hidden. Taisha just takes this to try and flex her name to try and make things maybe a little bit easier for them, hopefully, because druids are kind of the gray. They're Switzerland most of the time. They stay out of the politics. They stay out of the dealings of Ahriman for the most part. So hopefully it makes their lives easier. Valus also reveals her true identity as she's probably the only other one that isn't being actively hunted down, as she's not involved with dol-makjar. The only dealing she has is with the Stone of Night song, and honestly, maybe the only one that would know about that is House Draconis. Maybe. And I doubt that, even. Because House Draconis stole it from Thiazi, not from them. So, that'll be interesting. That's just an interesting choice they made of showing themselves. But, everyone else makes aliases. They end up getting lodging at this inn, and they end up just getting one room, as they really only need enough space for 3 people to sleep, as Octus and Valus have no need to sleep, being one dead and the other an elf.
Because this is a stable for people.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I mean it's a hostel of sorts. Like there's not much. But in this room, Aranessa reveals her fears of the fact that their caravan was halted in Risengirdle. She's worried about if she's recognized by going outside and what will happen. Will they attack her? Will they arrest her? Will they be friends? Who knows? No one knows. And she's hungry, thirsty, famished, and exhausted. So she asks for food, and the others go and find food, bring it to her. And in that, the group visits a nearby beer garden. A Halavar carriage arrives with 4 guards and a young, attractive Lux of the Condescent Creed. She buys drinks for the party and joins them at the table as well. She introduces herself as Tamra and claims she's traveling to Venatus to spread the light. Basically, saying that she's trying to go and spread the word of the creed. The recognizes Taisha as Aloy because of the staff that Taisha carries around. Taisha mentions meeting Wikander Halavar and expresses her admiration for the aspirants and mentions tyranny by name. Taisha asks to see Filament, and Tamara shows a small bottle of liquid, of glowing liquid. And shortly after, Tamara departs towards her carriage. Meanwhile, Octus is experimenting with eating food and drink, as he has not tested this since he died. And this feeling of food and liquid being in his stomach is alien. He notices that he's still damaged.
Like a hand in his stomach just holding soft, wet matter.
Yep. And with that, the liquids still seep out from him. So he realizes that he's still not fully stitched and put together. Julian is suspicious and slips back to watch the carriages depart. He sees two massive horns start to emerge from Tamara's head, realizing that was not a Lux of the Condescent Creed, but an aspirant. And not just any aspirant either, but the Sister of Tyranny. When they return together, the group, Julian reports back about about how he can confirm Halavars are experimenting with demonic pacts and bringing demons into the light. And they return to the inn where Aranessa kind of reinstates that her belief that the Taconis and the Halavars are working together, and that they should prepare to leave quickly. But during this time, Octus attempts to purge his stomach, and that ends up worsening the wounds within him. He's kind of having a hard time figuring out his new body, that's for sure. And this was the scene that really
just falling out of his stomach and pulling on his esophagus, and he can feel the weight of his body just falling out of him.
Yeah, that.
Imagine the squelching noises, just like.
I'm good. I don't need to. This was a scene that I had to pause. I had to do a harsh pause in the middle of it, and then continue on because
like sausage links.
It's okay. We can move on from it as they did, because in it, Taisha ends up. Well, first Valus heals the damage, but realizes she can't really help the old injuries from his death. So then Taisha uses mending to pour molten liquid down the scar or the cut open area to seal it and kind of almost solder it back together. But then Taisha tails the Halavar. Yes. Taisha tails the Halavar carriage to the Condescent Creed's cathedral. A demon emerges, not Tamara, but enmity. Enmity. Wow, that one's gonna be a hard one. Enmity. Freaking Nemo over here. But she is suspicious that that Octus is actually Wick in disguise, and that Valus is actually Tyranny in disguise. So they start making their way back to the beer garden, presumably to capture them. That's when Julian and Valus search for the missing Royce caravan. They end up finding it inside the Einfausen castle courtyard. They kind of try and sneak up behind it, and when Valus crosses the threshold, a horn blares, warning of dark and malevolent forces. Because of this, a guard interrogates the driver, and when he suddenly grows 4 feet taller and smashes the driver's face in, Julian and Valus decide to retreat, recognizing that House Einfausen is one not to make angry, and that they would come back later.
They're the politest people until they don't need to be, and they just go from green to red. There is no yellow light.
Yeah, no yellow, orange, or anything in between. It is just straight to red, 0 to 1,000. This family. But back at the inn, Octus stitches up his wounds more securely, and this is actually where Taisha, where he cleans himself out, gets himself back to normal, and later Taisha will then use mending. I did rush through that, mainly because I don't want to return to this gross scene. Disgusting. No, I'm good. Pass. But whenever they start trying, or in the morning, Octus does disguise himself as Sir Curzon Blad to go with Julian and try to figure out if they have friends here in Risengirdle. They call upon Lady Ingrid Einfausen as as Lady Roy or Lady Aranessa remembered this girl being fairly friendly. At first, she takes this as a like as if she's being courted as a romantic call, but swiftly Julian intervenes and states their true purpose, searching for the Royce caravan and why it was held up, where it is, what's going on. So Ingrid calls upon her father. And this is where we get our look into Lord Otto Einfausen. He talks about how he impounded the caravan because they received a message from House Royce warning of a traitor. He does note that it was a very short and kind of suspicious note, but House Royce is that's fairly normal for the House Royce and Divinos. Let's see. Julian confirms that it was a forgery, and that reveals to Lord Einfausen that his father is actually dead. That he was murdered by assassins from the Draconis family.
Yeah, because Otto asked him, "Was like, well, how do you know it's a forgery?" And he says, "Well, there's a what was it? A crack in the seal."
Yes, a crack in the seal. Yeah, that is.
Like that. Then he said, "And for two,
that had been opened." Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
And for two, my dad's dead.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry, didn't hear that part. Yes, and this is when, like, before they find the note, Lady Ingrid sends off her handmaiden to go retrieve the note, but whenever Octus notices that she hasn't come back, he makes it like he takes note of, like, hey, she's gone. We need to go find her. Like, someone that knows information that is needing to be secret is out and about. Bring her in. Get her back here. And whenever they do find her and bring her in, they question her, interrogate her, and she was found that she had sent a message without any permissions. So then Lord Otto swiftly brings out his hammer and cracks her over the head, killing her instantly. Um, we again getting the sign that the Einfasens are not to be messed with. You lie to them, and they find out, they're gonna kill you because they do not care. Like, they will murk you fast.
Yeah, and it was very fast because he's also after that promptly just this room is no longer suitable for discussion.
Yeah, so they move out. Um,
Okay.
and that's actually when they go, like, Boston never stood up. Otto. Julian Octus. Yes. He orders Julian Octus and the caravan to remain in the castle, but Julian requests time to consult with Lady Aranessa, as they have kept her kind of safely tucked away so that just in case this meeting doesn't go well, it's not the end of the world, because only Julian and Octus are in trouble, not Lady Aranessa. So Otto allows them to go back to the tavern to talk to her under heavy guard. And as they come back, so no, it was, yeah. So when they come back and they bring side Octus. And Octus.
I just think it's worth mentioning still that after Otto allows it for him to go and consult with Lady Aranessa, Julian, I think it's Julian. It could be totally wrong. I can't remember. One of them does like a perception roll and notices Ingrid up in the window watching Aranessa and just crying and weeping. And we don't really know much more than that, but it does seem like there is something going on behind the scenes as well that we just don't know of yet. There's something else going on.
Right. And okay, so they get and Octus also sends off a vulture to try and go catch the messenger pigeon. But then through a Google search, they find out that a messenger pigeon is much faster than a vulture, so there was no way the vulture was going to catch him. But the vulture was already, like, sent, so there was no bringing him back. So then the group regathers. Julian urges transparency with Otto, trying to get, honestly, a better leverage for themselves. Aranessa agrees that a night in the castle may be necessary to get cleaned up, rested, and maybe on their way. Though the Lord Einfasen requires they stay until they figure out what has happened in Palazzo Tavinos and the truth behind it, because they did receive that note, and there is no evidence, there's no heavy evidence that any of this has really happened other than a gauntlet, you know? So they are kind of just in this purgatory waiting period of waiting for the truth to come out. But this is kind of where they're left, is in House Einfasen without really any good way out right now, and they're surrounded by people that if they find out that there is any lies being told here, they're dead.
There is a Taconis with them, specifically Octus, who desperately does not want to be here, and his disguise is about to fail at any moment, although he could redisguise himself, but the danger is still present. And then with them being not quite so, politely, but definitely, oh, no. It's like, oh, yeah, of course you're free to leave, but also you're not free to leave. You have to stay here. It's like, okay. So they're definitely something's going on, because right now they know him as just he's just a hireling. He's just hired to be here. He's done his job, so we're just gonna just kick him out and send him off. Like, no, he could stay. He's welcome. It's like, okay.
Well, they were very insistent about it, that it was like, no, he's welcome, but not only welcome, he's staying no matter what. He doesn't get a choice. That's where it's like very telling that they're like, they don't trust anybody. Like, even if they trust you, they don't really trust you.
Yeah, Otto is extremely paranoid right now and doesn't trust anyone. And I think jumping the gun here a bit, but he's definitely stalling.
Oh yeah, definitely stalling. I mean, it's not really jumping the gun too much because we're rolling right into that one anyways.
We're gonna get right into it, but technically.
Yeah, because we'll go straight into episode 13 now of Seeking Sanctuary, where the cold open we'll get through real quick. We flash back 57 years prior to the Falconers' Rebellion, which is 57 years before now, but it's during the height of the Falconers' Rebellion. Sorry, I keep messing this up. It's year 57. That's the thing that messes with me, is that their years are so weird. I think year 1 is literally when the Shapers died.
Yeah. So this is 57.
Yeah, the year 57, 14 years before. Yeah. Exactly. But there's soldiers gathered for the Harvest Festival, drinking, telling stories, watching this play happen, and it's the mortals' theatric rendition of how the death of Rowan, the trickster god, shaper of the halflings, died. And they scale it out to be that, like, if Rowan fell in love, then she would have to become immortal. And once she became immortal, then we could kill her. When in reality, Bolaire knows that's not true. Knows that this is not really how things went. And currently,
they just have this romantic tragedy.
Currently, he is also still in the kind of mindset of, I'm still a tool. I'm meant to be used by someone else. And that's kind of where he is in the moment. But by the end of the play, he realizes that I'm not a tool. I'm meant to live my own life now. And he kind of turns inward to the person that's wearing him and says, I'm sorry, but I can't let you have this anymore. I can't let you come back out. I'm going to be taking over. And in fact, I'm going to have to kill everyone here and burn their bodies. And I'm sorry for that. But now it's my time. Is essentially how he says it. Is that and
he says it so calmly too. He's talking to the body that he has taken over, and he says, "I'm sorry, but you're never going to come out again, and I'm probably going to have to kill everyone here. I think I'll just make sure that they're asleep, and one by one slit their throats, and then burn the evidence, burn the bodies, burn everything else, and then I'll be on my merry way." But this was just a to-do list for him. It's like, okay, well, I have the body now. Check that off. And let's see. Burn the body, slit the throats. Not that order. Slit the throats, burn the bodies. There we go.
Yep. and I mean, like, and immediately after we get Brennan saying, like, and that is how things went. That's exactly what happened. Which, I mean, there was no other way for it to happen, as that was 14 years ago. It already happened. Lethalia, Bolaire's already with us, you know. So,
which one thing outside of the story, I love this sort of mechanic that Brennan does with this, because we'll see this again. It's like, okay, this has already happened, but you, the character, you know what happened, so go ahead and tell me, how did this go down?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, very cool. Like such agency with the players is amazing in a tabletop game.
Oh yeah, it is amazing. Like the play that is playing out before us is amazing.
Hmm.
But going back into our seekers, we are brought back to Risen Girdle uh, with Lord Otto Einfausen, bringing our seekers into Castle Clifton.
This the falling over this name uh, was just so stupidly hilarious. Clip and blick.
Yeah, it's
There is no good DM that has ever existed who has never like at least once, probably at least multiple times, regretted the decision of what they have named anything. Like I
yep.
think there is a whole like so what I'm thinking of, there's a whole like montage of just Matt Mercer himself just being hazed by the players by what he
Oh
names.
yeah,
And
Mike Hunt. Yeah, dude.
Hunt,
Every NPC is now Jeff.
yeah,
Like,
everything just now Jeff from now on, now Dave, or even the one time he does name someone Jeff. Well, maybe it was him. He does name someone Jeff, and then they're just like, wow, everyone else is like, wow, that's such a boring name. And then I think it might have been Sam. Just like, well, no, Jeff's a great name. And then I don't know. It's there's no amount of hazing that he can avoid.
right,
It's just
right.
clip and blick. Anyway,
Yep. But he swears not to harm them while they're within its walls, and orders the immediate release of the detained men at arms, which we never see happen. So that's an interesting little tidbit
oh yeah.
there. Um, Otto recognizes Taisha as a druid of the old path and shows respect for her Loy lineage. Um, Valus is introduced as Aranessa's protector, though not bound to House Royce. Um, Octus continues keeping up his disguise as the hired servant. Um, and basically the group is granted access to this like tower of the castle, which I believe has like the shower or the baths and housing and everything. Um, but they are instructed to remain within the castle walls. Um, Julian suggests sending a message to the Golden Orchard to confirm whether it still stands. Aranessa urges him to send it immediately. She pulls Otto aside for a private conversation, as she did not want to give him time to prepare for their conversation. She wanted to be in on him immediately so that there was no time for anybody to, like, sway anything for them.
Yeah, or for him to have yet another reason to stall.
Right, exactly. And as the rest of the group, or well, as Valus and Taisha go off to bathe, Octus goes and kind of gets himself upstairs or up in his room to hide himself away before his disguise wears off. But we are brought into the bathing chambers that is lavish and large and naked with a veil. Like, chainmail veil. Metal, dude.
Metal.
And Valus explains her veil is actually a symbol of mourning Salandri. And this is where actually Valus and Taisha get their moment about bonding over the fact that one of them is the descendants of the ones that started the war on the gods, and one is a paladin for one of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
But we also get to see that Valus doesn't show any animosity. she kind of understands that, like, I mean, she's been around. She is like the adult in the room of this party, as everyone is young to her, being she is over 100 years old. Um, and I mean, we get to see that like she accepts the outcome of what's happened, but also holds her hatred, I feel, towards the mortals for what they did to the gods.
Hmm.
Um, because I mean, it did play out that like we get another insight into how the gods worked too. Is that like there were many rebellions that happened before the Shapers' War against Osgra specifically, and each time they would kill off the ones that rebelled, and then each of the Shapers would give an eighth of their or a seventh of their people over to Osgra, meaning you living for the god, living under your god, might eventually be given to Osgra and just get to be live under suffering for the rest of your life. So no wonder everyone else rebelled. Is that like Philandry even was like, Oscar's kind of a cool guy. Like I honestly think he's all right. It's kind of the signature she was giving off on him every time she gave off a portion of her people to him. So it's kind of dark. Um, but see here. Julian tries to send off his message, or he tries to go to send his message, and during that time, someone stops him and takes the message to send it off. And whenever he follows, he actually finds out that that person, that servant, took that message to the chambers of Lord Einfasen and did not send the message. So, seeing that, Julian decided, I'm going to take it upon myself to get it done. So he goes to the aviary and speaks to the attendant there and gets a message sent off. In that moment, we get another touch that that Julian is being haunted or is cursed, because the man looks behind him and is, no, nothing's there, nothing. And it wasn't until the cooldown for this episode that I didn't realize that that's what happened there. I thought it was like a guard popped up behind him, and the guy looked up and then looked back down like, oh, nothing's there, and the guard like dipped behind like a pillar or something to hide. I did not read that as, oh, everyone is seeing that Julian is haunted, but Julian. You know?
Yeah.
Thought that was a funny little tidbit that they added on to there.
Yeah, I missed the cooldown, but they have brought up his long shadow so much that I figured that this is yet another
so
tell
long.
of, a curse, his haunting.
Right.
And
well,
how
it
he
had been
been
so long that we talked about it, so I was like, man, what is this? And then I was like, oh, duh. Has to be that. But, getting that little tidbit, we get, kind of a little touch into the, backstory of Octus as well, where, Octus talks about how Thiazi recognized his talent, sent him off to the Pentevril, was kind of getting him away from his family, and that's what really saved Octus's life, probably, was getting him away from his family.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought that was a really cool little tidbit. Yeah, sorry guys. This episode was very much a lot of politics going on. We saw a lot of
a lot to follow.
A lot of like Einfaz and talking to Aranessa and finding out that like there was nothing left at the Royce or at the Palazzo Divino, so there's no evidence. And then he pulls Taisha in and talks to her and basically is just like, hey, I'm not making you mad. I don't have any quorums with you, do I? And we find out that like really the only worry they have with druids is like, hey, I'm not crossing your line, right? No? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. Because the circle of ancients, the druids as a whole, typically do not mess with the politics unless you are like directly stepping on their foot, you know? And Taisha kind of made it clear that no, we have no sway between the Taconis or the Royce. Like, we have no real say on either side. So it's just a lot of setting up for really, honestly, what I think is going to be our next camp or our next session of whether the Einfazens start chasing them as well, because now in part 2 here is where things really start to pick up and get interesting, is where they decide that it's time for them to get out. They decide that it is not safe for them here because like there's too many variables, too many factors. They believe they would be safer back at the Royce home than here. So they end up escaping. Octus makes it very obvious and leaves very clear proof that his presence was here in the castle, destroying his room, leaving an undead cat with a note. Aranessa leaves her own note, claiming Fey forces have aided them, and states she is returning to the Golden Orchard. And right as they're about to leave, Octus's undead vulture returns. Kind of surprisingly, because that means it did not have to go very far. And it's already back. And it had wicker in its beak with blood, meaning it killed the dove. Killed the pigeon, but the pigeon got to its destination. Yeah, thank you for catching that. Whilst all this is going on, Taisha was tasked with acquiring the horses and getting like animals ready to get the horses ready to go. So once we are on the ground, we are able to get out of here. In that, she notices a Taconis carriage arrive, and 2 extremely tall, about 7 foot tall and 150 pounds soaked, like on their best day, twins come out of the carriage. And that is really all we're left with there, is that's it. She meets back with the group with the horses as they're feather falling to the ground. They get on the horses, they get moving, and as that's happening, Taisha turns to Octus and is like, hey, do you have twin sisters? And he's like, oh shit, we gotta go. Learning that those 2 twins are probably the most powerful of the siblings, and they are the ones that they're gonna have to worry about the most. See here. And this is when we come upon 2 different routes to take. One is this lift that will take them down the cliffside and get them away from Risengirdle, or they take the dwarven path, where in Giant Reed's sanctuary, and is like a ancient dwarven refuge. Missing the elevator, they are left with their only option of going to this kind of sanctuary refuge area, where they are greeted by Mozor, an elder dwarven druid, or an elderly dwarven druid. Sorry, saying a lot of races here, it gets real muddled here, real quick. Uh, the guy is very wary of Octus, being that they are beings of life. Druids are everything about nature and life and the circle of that. Octus immediately sets alarm bells off for them, showing that, oh, he's undead. He's not supposed to be here. But allows them in, but forbids Octus from touching food or their water. Being he already experimented with that, he probably wasn't going to do that anyways. But they are assured that no Sundered House would ever come here, as it is a place of the Druids. She notices the other circles of the Druids are here. The Circle of Season, Stone, the Hunt, and she goes up to the kind of the vestige of where their like altar, where the Circle of Ancients would be, and made it notable that there is a one of the ancients here. Later, as they've settled in a little bit, Mozor confronts Taisha with two other druids. One being like a bear person, like an older bear druid person, and a one with this kind of bird beak kind of mask. And he specifically, you may be able to be a little bit better at describing this than I am, but Brennan describes like his ribs being shown and how it looks like everything's made of wood, and like it looks like he is himself becoming a tree. And whenever he takes off this mask that looks like it's a bird's head, he takes it off and then you see that it's an elven man. And I forget, he says something about his face that like maybe there's like a torn open part of his face, but he has like, it's almost as if his like
I thought it was like his,
it's trachea. That's right.
Like it's his trachea.
You're right. That's what it was. It was his throat.
He is truly one with the element.
Yep. Yeah. But also, he is basically a tree, an elven tree man. But a druid elf is an interesting idea. It's like you're already immortal, and then you elongate that a little bit more. How do you elongate immortality? But the elven man states you've brought something that needs to die into this camp. Speaking on Octus. But on that statement, that was where we ended the session. So we'll be coming back into possibly fighting next session, possibly just a promise being made, possibly just getting kicked out, of saying like, hey, you guys need to go, you're not welcome here. But I'm curious to see what happens with that.
I am too, because you've brought something that needs to die into this camp. Doesn't necessarily have to be like a bad thing. I think it's more that they recognize that whatever Octus is right now, it's not a natural thing, and I mean that nothing's going to change for him ever. I mean, if they understand this even in the slightest, I mean, you would think that's going to be a miserable existence, especially once. If he's immortal this way, eventually he's going to outlive, unless something happens, he's going to outlive everyone around him that understands him. And this is not something that the average person can understand. It would just be miserable. So I think them saying you brought something that needs to die into this camp is more of that, like, it was very bold of you to do this, so it must be a very important thing.
I hope that's what it is, because otherwise...
I hope so. I hope it's
otherwise this might be bad.
We're against this. This is bad. I hope it's deeper than that. I hope it's just like we understand that this would not have happened unless it was a dire situation and something drastic needs to happen. So here's what we know.
which could be a
whether
little
we
bit of
can help
both.
or not. But yeah,
Because it could be
or it
like,
could just be
hey,
something
he's
simple.
dead.
It's like we can't do this. Get out. Oh, now get.
Right. But I mean, it could be a little bit of both of like, hey, that's something that needs to die, and you brought it here in this place of life, this camp of life. Explain yourself. And it may be a, like, this could go one of three ways. Either you're doing something good and we're going to help you, you're doing something that directly opposes our way of life and we're going to exterminate him. Or it could be, hey, we understand what you're doing, but we want nothing to do with it. Please leave. And I do truly believe it's probably going to come down to that conversation that we're going to come back to this next session. It's going to all come down to whether whether Taisha does a good job of negotiating, does an okay job of negotiating, or does a shit job of negotiating. And that will kind of determine what path we go down from there. Just because, like, I mean, as we've seen, Brennan has a path for any way that they choose to go, or the dice choose to go. Either way.
Yeah.
But do you have any final statements on our triad of episodes we have here today?
Not yet. I think I'll have more to think about once we actually start piecing all of this together and see where all of this, where all of
Where it
this
goes.
politics goes whenever it actually comes to
two. Yeah, it's only the second episode of the Seekers table. So, I mean, there's still a lot to build out from.
There's some speculation you can make, but I'm just waiting to see like the definitive of what actually happens, and then we can, then I can put more thought into that. But right now, I think this is just the build up to a build up, and then we'll keep going from there. I think I just feel like all of this is Brennan's definitely playing the long game. Like you said, he's got probably at least 3 different branches for every possible scenario that happens in here because he's a madman. And so I think this is all still a setup. I think from episode 1 all the way to now is still just a setup for what is, in my thoughts, to become like the actual start of this campaign. I still think we're in a setup to something much bigger.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're still, like, I mean, the Seekers are still level 3. So, I mean, we're still super early on. We're still in, like, the pre Chroma Conclave level of story arc right now. So, I mean, everything's going to be very much a little bit of setup until we get to that point. And even once we get to that, like, level 10, level 12 Chroma Conclave quest, we're still not going to be, like, that's still going to be, like, these are little setups. The Chroma Conclave is a big setup, and then we're going to have the finale later on, more than likely, where it's, and honestly, from, I would say, on probably level maybe 18 on, we may have all 3 tables back together again. Because I think this is going to have a really big climax to it, where maybe they're going to have a bigger table to fit everyone there all at the same time. Which would be cool.
Yeah, they're going to need a bigger table.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, closing out that chapter, I wanted to do a few announcements, kind of touching on how this show is going to move forward. Obviously, this episode did not come out in January, for the main fact that Critical Role did a flip-flop of what they normally do. Instead of having their break week be the last week of the month, it was the first week of the month, and hopefully February and March, moving forward, this will work out a little bit better, that we can, on their off week, we post. So, if, say there's 3 episodes for February, we'll be releasing ours at the very end of February to kind of wrap up their 3 episodes. And And once we start to get a little bit more momentum here, we may end up doing more. But to kind of take a little bit of the weight off of us for the short term, while we don't have that momentum, we want to kind of back down just a little bit and focus a little bit more on our campaign. Which is my next thing that I want to segue into is the Ashen Realm actual play podcast that we have here on Adventurers Anonymous. It's our campaign 1. It's ramping up ever more and more every session, and we post those every other week. So join us over there and join the adventure with us.
Absolutely.
But other than that, do you have anything else you wanted to touch on real quick, Gigas? Or
I don't think so. I think we're in the thick of it, and we just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, as usual.
Until next time, keep your rolls high, keep your hearts full, and as always, keep talking that grit.
See you guys.